Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for joining me once again on this reverse recruitment, 0% growths, LTC. What can I say? We're here. Everyone, listen carefully. In order to reach Ashira, we must first destroy the aura protecting her. Got it? Attack the aura. What Micaiah has just told us is the key mechanic of this map. Until we cut through all 8 auras surrounding her, Ashira cannot be targeted. It's a little bit like Micaiah's own protection in the previous map, taken to the next level. Speaking of the Light Priestess Micaiah, here she is. Her defense has disappeared for some reason, but that doesn't concern us. She joins with the Ashira staff, which is a map-wide full heal that frees up our other units to be aggressive. She joins us as a reward for completing a few hidden objectives throughout the game, such as having Ike fight the Black Knight in 3-7. In addition to her staff, Micaiah joins with maxed out light rank and 38 magic. We can make use of that. 64 despite hit isn't great, but we need the chip damage. The next risk we want to get out of the way is attacking this Fire Spirit with Jill. With good Biorhythm, her odds of activating either Adept or Stun at least once are 74%. Meg does not require any skills to take down this Thunder Spirit, but we've given her Adept anyway, to help deal with potential misses. The auras all have Mantle, so Adept won't do much good anywhere else. With a small fry out of the way, we can now focus on our primary objective. Nasir's positioning is paramount. Ashira's auras have 35 speed, meaning only Edward can double them naturally. With Whitepool, a Speedwing, and a Blessed Brave Axe, Nolan becomes our single highest damage unit against these obstacles. Tormod's B support grants him 5 hit and a critical 1 extra attack point. This enables Aran to finish off the Southern Aura with the Wishblade. The terrain on this map is vital to understand. The corner auras are on cover, while auras adjacent to Ashira are on Wardwood. What this means is that the auras that are more exposed are generally tougher to damage. Despite the fact that our mages aren't attacking into Wardwood, their inability to double severely limits their offensive output. Edward can step in with Parity to deal the final blows to the southeastern aura. This opens up space for Nailah to attack with Whitepool. I finally have a bit of time to mention the Aurora skill present on all 8 auras, which normally retaliates against every hit with half the damage the aura just took. This effect can be negated with Nihil and Parity, both of which have been distributed liberally. This rescue drop sequence might look odd, since the end result is the same as shoving Edward downward. The reason we do it this way is because we need to leave room for Elincia to rescue Nasir. Doing so will essentially rotate his position around the map counterclockwise. This also leaves a rather conspicuous opening between 4 of our best offensive assets. Ashira will not stand idle while we destroy her protective barriers. On turn 1 enemy phase, she will unleash a physical area of effect attack that spans the entire map. You can imagine how Leanne and Lehran really don't appreciate that. The silver lining is that the attack's power decreases as you get further away from Ashira, and we can also use cover tiles to our advantage. After Celerity Leanne cantos back, Ike will smite her to a spot where she can survive. Rescuing her would shield her completely, but it would also make her unable to act on the next turn. Back in the combat zone, Nailah gets to finish what she started. Laura's 94 displayed hit is the best we've been able to put up against these auras. They have 110 avoid coming from their 35 speed and 40 luck, plus 25 more from Ashira's 5 authority stars. We need 235 hit in order to guarantee that our attacks connect against these things, and that is a very difficult bar to clear, even with growths. Much of our support building over the last few maps has been done with these auras in mind. Here it comes. By the way, badass line's right here. Ooh, the timing on that crescendo? Beautiful. Aha! Nasir lives! We are extremely grateful that the tiles where he can best support his allies happen to be cover tiles. It's plain to see why we made the effort to recruit Micaiah and her Ashira staff. Fortunately, Healing off all of this damage occurs much faster than receiving it. Close call for Lehran, but he's okay. Same with Leanne. Many of the tiles on this map are heal tiles, and both Aran and Fiona have Imbue. It pains me to interrupt the music, but such is the nature of rigging combat. This song, A Grasping Truth, might be my favorite in the entire series. Jill kicks off turn 2 with Irvin, which sports a fantastic 110 base hit. She also gains 5 more from her B support with Nasir. Sadly, she is 2 speed shy of doubling auras with White Pool. Tormod's primary job here is to move in to support Nolan, but he may as well try to ship the Northwestern aura while he has his action available. We want either him or Aran to hit on this turn. Afterward, Nolan turns 1 extra attack point into 4 extra damage, precisely eliminating the Northern aura. Thanks to his best buy rhythm, as well as the fact that Parity ignores the Authority Star deficit, Edward is up to 97 hit here. Not bad at all. He, Laura, and Ilyana are going to continue to work on this corner, much like they did on the opposite corner last turn. Tormod subs in for Micaiah this time, but again, Aran is available should he miss. The fact that Leonardo took out that Fire Spirit probably gives away the pace of this clear. We wouldn't have to worry about that enemy if we were confident that it would never get a chance to act. Ilyana is one of our Nihil users, so this attack is safe even if it doesn't kill. If Tormod had missed, this is the point in time where Aran would be arriving to provide 15 damage. Lehran is his support partner, so he moves into position first. In this case, Aran simply waits. Last turn we eradicated 4 auras, and so far we've been clearing out the rest at a similar pace. However, we won't be able to keep this up. Elincia has to use Rescue on Leanne this turn in order to bring her close to Nolan and company, and Nasir will have to be protected from Ashira's next attack. On turn 2, she targets a single player unit with a 1-7 range magical attack that has 28 attack speed. She will not attack Lehran or his descendants, which is a statement that works the same way both in vanilla and reverse recruitment. After being rescued, Leanne chants for just 3 units, which might look extremely wasteful at this stage. Clearly we could better optimize this turn, but you have to consider what the reward is for doing so. We're on track to cut through the western aura and leave the southwestern one intact. Suppose we optimized. Suppose we found a sequence of moves that took down that last pesky aura on turn 2, perhaps by having Lehran make clever use of the last rescue staff charge. What then? Ashira would still stand, and there's no way we'd have enough action economy to finish her off as well. We just don't have the raw power and speed to break through more than 4 auras per turn. I really did try to make it work, but I never really got close to a 2-turn clear. That's not to say it's impossible, but I don't think I could have done it in the context of this particular run. Maybe you could do it by assigning stat boosters differently. Maybe you could do it by bringing a bird lagoons with both shove and canto. Maybe you could do it by finding a spot where the boots make a difference. Did you notice I never handed out that particular stat booster? Surprise! Micaiah will close out this turn with her Ashira staff. She could produce something of a Radiant Dawn herself. No more banter from Ashira. Only judgment. Alright, let's finish this. Nolan took the brunt of Ashira's ire just now, so Lehran steps in to patch him up. The Recover Staff will top off a unit's HP, regardless of the wielder's magic stat. Ashira has 50 resistance, making her nearly immune to magic damage. This means that our mages are best suited to concentrating on the final aura, which is not on Wardwood. We take the time for one more battle save before continuing. As the unit who deals the highest damage to cover tile auras, Edward goes first. We want to save our powerhouses for Ashira, who has 35 defense and 32 normal attack speed. Her actual speed stat is 40, but her judge weapon weighs her down by 8. I always found it curious that Ashira was given 8 strength and 15 magic, though the latter appears to be the reason her long-range attacks only reach 7 squares away. That's 15 divided by 2, rounded down. With Laura's Rexora, Micaiah breaks our hit rate record, as well as the final barrier between us and our ultimate foe. Ike must deal the final blow with Ragnar, or Ashira will simply regain all of her HP after being reduced to 0. Nailah leads the charge with perfect hit rates. Jill takes the baton next. Despite Irvin's tremendous base hit, the final number here is 77. Nasir stands beside her to make sure she can double. Jill didn't let us down, and Nolan has no plans to do any less. We've brought Ashira low enough for Ike's 9 damage to finish the job. However, if any of our Irvin swings had missed, we had a few contingencies. Leonardo can make up for an error on Jill's part. So could Meg, but we prefer not to rely on a 48. Aran could cover for a Nolan miss, attacking from next to Nasir to avoid dying as a result. Ike's own hit rate is 57, which factors in best biorhythm and a B support with Elincia. We've held Leanne back in case we need an extra attempt. If the game calculates that Ashira will die by Ike's hand, a cutscene will play before the battle. Once more Ike, with feeling. Game.
You have to put an end to this. Take all the power I have.
Thank you. I'll use it well.
That is 4e5 in 3 turns. Time for a victory lap. Here are the turn counts for each chapter. Quick note here, the chapters that were beaten via the defend or survive objectives get a turn added on the screen for some reason. So for 1-5, 2-P, and 3-7, subtract 1 to get the actual turn counts. Anyway, while we're here, I'd like to hand out some thanks and acknowledgments. There are a number of people who helped plan or otherwise inspire pieces of this run. From the Fire Emblem Efficiency Discord, Mantis is someone I compared notes with, and he's indirectly responsible for my 3-turn clear of 2-2. Silly did a lot of the combat math for 4e3, and we also bounced around ideas for 313. Zorbies, Typhoon Carter, and USS Gordon Captain also joined the discussion while I was planning the run. Several people hopped on to co-commentate and lighten the load on my end when it came to some of the longer chapters. First we have my mom, who is cooler than your mom, by the way. I don't make the rules, sorry. Original Raisins, and I was going to make a pun about his razor wit, but never quite came together, so you get this instead. Thanks to you for some handy audio advice as well. Additional thanks to Justin, aka Kobos667, Hughes of Neon, Jimmy, and Panda Money, who also offered a myriad of interesting questions in the video comments. That kind of feedback is super encouraging, so I appreciate everyone who chose to show their interest in that way, including someone who I think is from Ukraine. That's what my Google Translate told me anyway. Slava Ukraini to you, my friend. Thank you, Mecha, for the signal boost, and thank you to anyone who learned about this run through him. I appreciate you all. I had the good fortune to work with some artistically skilled individuals, so thanks Rising Sunfish for the gorgeous custom thumbnail art on my army sorting video. I've said this before, but it makes me smile every time I look at it. And then, of course, there's Cyan Yo, whose work you've been seeing on every thumbnail and in a few other spots. This series would not look nearly as polished without your work, and I'm glad we got to enjoy some tellies together on the mic as well. One of the primary contributors to this run, both directly and indirectly, is Sharur, however you pronounce the name. I referenced his hard mode vanilla 0% growth LTC a lot. He co-commentated several chapters, he offered recording advice, and he posted a lot of humorous comments. Fun guy to talk with in general, too. Thanks, man. And of course, last but most certainly not least, he's valiant, he's vital, he's vicious Sal! Sal made the reverse recruitment 0% growth mod, which of course is the whole reason any of this is possible. He even made some fixes in direct response to my feedback, which is awesome of him. He joined me on comms multiple times to help answer people's questions about the game, tell stories, and make the experience that much more enjoyable. I'm very glad we've been able to collaborate on this project, and I wish you both luck and skill in your future endeavors. We've also been getting the individual unit records, which is always fun. Peleus is there in 5th, no doubt due to the mess that was 312. We've got Kanigas up in 4th. He was a big deal in Part 1, and even had contributions all the way to 4E3. Mike, of course, in 3rd, did a ton of work throughout the game, which is what you would hope to get out of a unit who received 7 stat boosters, a killer A support, and a promotion. So, appreciate that from him. Nailah in 2nd, yep. Big jump up here in victories. She was an invincible engine of destruction for her entire career, and all she needed was a single energy drop. Her strike rank basically improved itself. And of course, let's hear it for Khalil at the top. That's right, a mage in Radiant Dawn, blowing everyone else out of the water with just a single promotion. No other stat boosters. I did go back and confirm that I left 1 Spirit Dust unused, which really means I should have given it to Khalil. But regardless, she was our best unit. First rate. I couldn't let all of this end without one last Q&A session, so here we go. Zandy asks, how long did it take you to figure out the best team combinations for Endgame? Did you already have a rough idea since the beginning of how you wanted the teams to look like? I can't even wrap my head around the amount of checking enemy stats, checking your own stats, checking enemy types, managing gear for all armies to most effectively kill everything, rechecking everything again, etc. It's really fascinating. Thank you. Appreciate that. Emphasis mine, of course. Planning for Endgame was significantly easier than planning for Part 4 for a few reasons. First off, I only had to pick 10 units instead of dividing around 60 units into 3 armies. Second, a lot of the choices are pretty obvious based on stats and utility. Like, there's no world where I don't take Nolan to the tower, for example. Third, most of the objectives in the tower are simple, and by that I mean it's mostly defeat boss. This really simplifies the amount of combat we have to plan, which makes everything easier. For example, 4E2 literally does not care about your tower team. It's all Ike, and he's forced. I'd say the biggest constraints on team building come from 4E1 and 4E3, which are both very tight clears. 4E1, of course, being the route map, and 4E3 demanding a lot of the team to be able to fight against you. Panda Bunny asks, what determines the character that shows up on each episode's thumbnail? I find it kind of odd that Nailah isn't on there for 311, given how important she was to the clear. Yeah, so 311 was the map where both Nailah and Elincia joined, and Elincia ended up being the one on that particular thumbnail. When picking thumbnail characters, I didn't want to repeat any of them. So I generally tried to match the featured units to the chapters where they were the most impactful. Units like Nailah and Khalil were obviously the main carries on several maps, so it was more of a art than a science. A lot of subjective decisions in cases where there wasn't, I guess, a clear MVP. Panda Money again. How much of the gameplay was recorded by the time you posted episode 1? Just about all of it. I completed and recorded the entire run before making any videos. I occasionally recorded some more footage for things like the redone 1-1 and 3-5 clears. I recorded some of the stuff for outro cinematics and then background footage for like the army planning videos. And Bunny on a roll here. It seems like there have been multiple misplays or just slightly better options in some of the Part 4 videos. Is there a reason you didn't re-record with those better options? Part 4 is very complicated. The maps are mostly route maps, and there's a lot of combat happening, which means a lot of randomness coming from like hit rates. It's not reasonable to expect to figure out completely optimal clears, so I often found and commentated on mistakes and opportunities when I reviewed the footage months later. Like there's a process of, I record the whole game and then I go back and start going from part 1 on, and then by the time I get to part 4, a lot of time has passed and I'm able to look at things with a critical eye. Re-recording would have been a lot of extra effort, especially in cases where I had to rig combat with battle saves. Right, Kanbei asks, who do you think would have done well if only it weren't for their horrible availability, either reverse recruitment or regular Radiant Dawn? I'll go with reverse recruitment here. That's what I'm specializing in, and I'll say Nailah. In this run, he shows up on just 4 maps, which are 1-7 where he joins, 1-8, 1-E, and then 4-4. On all of those maps, he is very good. He can fly, he can carry other units around, he's extremely fast, 34 speed, and even in 4-4, he's 2 running enemies. At one point, I honestly considered giving him a tower spot, but there's just no time to build up a strike rank, and that's kind of the thing that could push him from, like, pretty good to, like, combat viable in the tower. I'm Not Pro asks, if you were to do a growths LTC on reverse recruitment, which unit do you think would be most improved? So if you're doing a growths playthrough, you can go with normal growth rates or 100% growth rates, which is philosophically similar to 0% growths, but in the opposite direction in terms of removing randomness from level ups. On regular growths, Peleus would be up there, honestly. The Dawn Brigade has to rely on him for a lot of combat, and being able to do things like Resolve Tank in Tier 2, where he can't exit Resolve range due to flare procs, but his level ups could still let him double those enemies, that could be pretty big. On 100% growths, I'd say Tabarn would be the most improved. Lagoos benefit tremendously from that format due to how their transformations double most of their stats, so every level up you're getting like +2 in most of your stats. You'd essentially want him to grab all of the combat he possibly can so he can snowball out of control. He has killer movement, killer caps, and long time to train his strength rank. So I think you could even avoid giving him the Terror Scroll, like No Satori Sign, to make his strike rank grinding more reliable, even if he'd still be like critting sometimes with his high skill. So yeah, probably Tabarn, Peleus, depending on context. Okay, from I Love Near Replicant. What is the appeal of this sort of run to you? And who was your favorite unit to use during the entirety of this challenge? I'll start with the favorite unit to use, which is tough. There are a lot of things that can make units fun to use, and one of them can be just raw combat. So like, you send Ike and Khalil together and they just vacuum up enemies, that kind of thing. Another fun thing is when units do very unique things, and in that case my answers would probably be Volk and Nasir. Volk just gets to go almost wherever he wants and do fun utility things like shove or open chests or block enemies or rescue Liam that one time. I really enjoyed that. Nasir is basically stats for everyone else, but not for him, after the first few chapters anyway, and it's fun to find things he can do despite his terrible stats and his terrible movement, honestly. So like placing a Shine Barrier in the tower, or shoving a Fire Spirit, or being able to tank an attack from the final boss. Those were all highlights. When I can find ways to make a unit succeed despite their shortcomings, that is fun for me, because I feel like I own that success. As for the appeal of the run, I did talk about some of this anyway with Sal during 3.7, but I can add to that here. There's a lot to explore, is the main idea. Reverse Recruitment puts a novel twist on a game that I had already played at least 7 times. 0% growths adds a challenge to it, and also removes a lot of the randomness from long-term planning. Like, I didn't have to rig any level ups, which is nice, although the trade-off is that I had to rig more combat. And then the LTC angle was something that I had recently gained interest in by the time I started the run, and no one had ever LTC'd Radiant Dawn Reverse Recruitment before. The patch was relatively recent, so I get to be the first person to do something unique in the world, which is always exciting. A question from Exod. Who is your favorite character in Radiant Dawn, not from a gameplay perspective, but from a personality perspective? Okay, this is difficult. I honestly really haven't engaged with the full Radiant Dawn or Path of Radiance story or supports in a long while. However, I know that I have a couple of favorites. Ike is great. Ike's really great. He has this really deadpan, sardonic sense of humor that I get a kick out of. It contrasts really well with a lot of the characters and enemies he interacts with. I'm thinking of like Amy or various bosses. Amy the shopkeep, that is. I like Zhark's aesthetic a lot. Zhark, Zyhark, I don't know. And I like how many decisions he could potentially make over the course of Radiant Dawn's story, because he can potentially switch armies at a couple of different points. I think Fargast made a video that explains it pretty well, so you can check that out. Marcia is a riot. I smile every time she says words from her mouth. She's amazing. But I think Har takes the cake. He's this guy that's honestly trying to find a simple path through life, but finding that to be difficult, as it always is. He's a sharp judge of character. He's reliable despite his borderline narcolepsy. And his conversations with Radiant Dawn's bosses are consistently awesome. Also, he looks really cool, and he has a blue wyvern. Okay, from Zandy, do you have an idea for what you want to do after this Radiant Dawn run? I have several. Okay, this is kind of the big question. I will actually make a plug by the time I'm done answering this question, but first things first, let me be clear on something. If you've been enjoying this particular brand of commentated, high-effort, passion project videos, I don't have plans to do it again in the near future, or maybe ever, it's hard to say. I am very proud of this series and very grateful for the warm reception you all have given it, but all of the factors that combined to motivate me to spend over a year and a half on this thing may not come together in the same way again. I've done what I set out to do, and I have no strong incentive to repeat it or repeat something similar. I have entertained the idea of a 100% growths hard mode LTC with reverse recruitment, but I'll talk about the obstacles in that way of that in a minute. I will say that I don't think I'm done talking about this run. I have ideas for 2 more videos that I could make. One of them is a unit tier list, because people love tier lists, and that sounds like a fun way to just talk about everyone's contributions, maybe even with a co-commentator. The other idea is a tier list of chapter difficulty, or maybe complexity, or I'm sure I could refine this idea, but like the time and effort I invested into each map does not always correlate with the satisfaction I derived from completing it, I suppose. And I could also use that video as an opportunity to talk about potential term saves, stuff like that. I have no actual work done for either of those concepts, so don't hold your breath, but I think I'll get around to them eventually. In other news, I actually have a different full Fire Emblem run uploaded on this channel. It's just that the videos are all unlisted. It is a 3 houses low kill count run, and the original idea there was to produce something a lot like this Radiant Dawn LTC with commentary and everything, all the bells and whistles, but that never happened. So what I could do is simply update the video descriptions and start publishing those if you guys are interested. I won't promise anywhere near the same production values, and some of the chapters are honestly not fun to watch, but others I'm still quite proud of. I probably wouldn't commentate the vast majority of those, but maybe I could pick some of my favorites and put in the effort there. I do recognize that a lot of the appeal of this Radiant Dawn series is that sense of having a conversation with someone about the footage on screen, not just the footage itself. So let me know what you think of that idea. And that's actually a bit related to the 100% growths Radiant Dawn idea, because this 3 houses run gave me an idea of what is necessary when planning a growths playthrough. The trick here is that if I committed to 100% growths, I would want to do it once and do it well, and I might put pressure on myself to optimize extensively. So it could take a whole lot of effort to, for example, route a possible 1-turn clear of 4E5, because I know that's possible in vanilla, and then I'd have to figure out how to train the units necessary for that, and that would have implications for the entire playthrough. Doable in theory, but a significant investment without the same freshness, I suppose. Okay, I suppose people will want to know whether I'm going to do anything with Fire Emblem Engage. Currently, no plans, because I have no idea whether I will enjoy the game enough to do something with it. My current outlook is skeptical, but I was the same way about 3 houses, so who knows. Other Fire Emblem things, I have written some fanfiction, I guess. I might as well put a link in the description. There's a story in there that's basically just a big conversation between Marcia and Har. Maybe you'll enjoy that. The rest is 3 houses stuff, because Fodlan is a cool world and I like its characters. Okay, alright. Here's the plug. I am part of a Fire Emblem Fates D&D-ish homebrew campaign, where some internet friends and I play through a heavily modded Fire Emblem Birthright with a crew of custom characters. It also involves a custom action economy, a custom gold economy, rewritten story, and support scenarios that range from serious to silly to fourth wall breaking. It is nothing like the videos I've been presenting on this channel, but it's a boatload of fun, and we're in the final few chapters of the game, so if that sounds interesting, we're most likely resuming on January 8th after the holiday season on Saturdays at 12 p.m. US Central Time. The stream will be at twitch.tv/Zioro94, there's a link in the description, and you can follow to be notified when that happens. After the current campaign ends, I'd like to take a gander at running another one myself. There's a non-zero chance that ends up on this YouTube channel or on my Twitch channel, so that's something to look forward to. Okay, one final note here. In the video description, you will find a couple of links that contain resources I have developed over the course of this playthrough. One of them is the previously alluded to spreadsheet with all kinds of information in it. There is also a link to a collection of save files, so if you want, you can grab those, load up any chapter you want, and either repeat what I did or try to improve on it. I would love for people to look for turn saves over what I did, so hopefully those links make that process easier. And with that, we've arrived at the end. This playthrough has been a labor of love, and it has been a joy to share the fruits of that with you all. Thanks for joining me one last time on this Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, Normal Mode, Reverse Recruitment, 0% Growths, LTC. You've been a wonderful audience. God bless you all. Take care of yourselves, okay? Oh.